easier for rational Republicans to survive the primaries?
I think that rational Republicans will always survive the primaries just as they always have. It's a myth that you have to be crazy to win a Republican primary for the Texas House.
Texas House Speaker Joe Straus leaves a big void among moderate Republicans after announcing he will not run for re-election next year. A couple of key words in that. What's a rational Republican and what's a crazy Republican? Texas Tribune reporter Alana Rocha live with reaction to this big news that was a surprise. This could dramatically change the political landscape here in Texas, couldn't it?
Yeah, for years and decades to come, potentially. I think one analyst we spoke with yesterday said that the center of Texas politics fell out yesterday. So this is dramatic, and props to his team for not having any leaks. This was definitely a surprise. I mean, just last month at the Texas Tribune Festival, Straus told our CEO, Evan Smith, that he was in fact running for re-election and for Speaker for a record-setting sixth term. I sat down with him yesterday afternoon and asked if there was a turning point or a pivotal moment, and he said no, he was just thinking about the next 3 years between campaigning and, of course, the election cycle or legislative cycle. And he said, it just seemed repetitive and that his strengths could maybe be used better elsewhere.
Straus is, as far as very conservative Texas Republicans are concerned, like Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, public enemy number one. The two of them pitted against one another over social issues that came up in the last legislative session, including the transgender bathroom bill. Straus basically personally blocked that from happening.
Right, and I mean, that kind of defined the divide in the party between business conservatives and social conservatives, a fight that you'll likely see emerge again with the race to replace him. As far as who will throw their name in the hat, in the coming days we could see as many as 8 more GOP candidates speak up and say, hey, I want to vie for Speaker. We've already had 2 just yesterday. John Zerwas, largely thought of as, a Straus lieutenant or in his camp, and a few weeks ago, Phil King.
It all goes back to, if you look at and Straus referred to it in that sound we heard from him, who turns out in Republican primaries. And it is traditionally, almost reliably, it is the most conservative Republican voters who show up and whose voices are heard and whose candidates then are nominated for elected office. Right,
and I mean, if Straus is on the ballot, he was asked point blank that yesterday as well on the 2018 ballot. He said, I highly doubt it, but he's not ruling anything out, he said in that same interview. So, yeah, I mean, it's a question of who turns out. He's been talking a lot to business conservatives, and it seems, maybe getting a confidence booster on higher office. He didn't rule anything out. He also didn't declare anything, but, the big question is he going to primary a Greg Abbott or a Dan Patrick? He has about a fourth of Abbott's campaign chest as far as $10 million versus Abbott's $40 million. But as they say, you don't need as much money, just enough money to run.
To a lot of Texans, this is like inside baseball. They hear House Speaker and their eyes just kind of glaze over. This is a more powerful job than governor.
Yeah, I mean, definitely more direct influence on the lawmaking process. He acknowledged yesterday that he doesn't have high name ID. He's not elected statewide, but rather, by the members of the House who people elect in their individual districts. And he said he's fine with that. He was told early on in his career as Speaker that if you have high name ID, it's probably because you're doing something wrong or you're in trouble. So he, is very comfortable with that.
Alana, thanks as always. We have a link to the Texas Tribune and Alana's reporting on fox4news.com. We appreciate your insight.